Hey, this is Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter. I am one of the co-hosts of the High Volume Hiring Podcast, and welcome to our next-ish episode. And special thanks to our sponsor, Itibu, a job distribution system that makes it super easy for you to get the jobs from your ATS onto all of your favorite job boards. Jeanette, good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too. For those that don't know me, Jeanette Leeds. I'm a HR tech entrepreneur advisor, and we are here today with Alex from Enable. She's a vice president of people and place or places?
Places, yeah.
Places.
HR, facilities, people, places.
All that. So welcome to episode. I think we're at 67.
I think so. It's probably that's 68 too many.
Never.
So Alex, maybe give us like a quick background on you and what you're doing over at Enable. Just as a quick background, then we can get into our topic at hand, which is really how do we make hires feel special when they're being onboarded, when you're not doing just one but many.
Oh yes. We brought in 15 just this last Monday at Enable. So thank you for having me too, both. I love this podcast and I feel very, very blessed to be here. At Enable, we are working to make the B2B rebate world a little bit easier for everybody involved. And what I do here is manage everyone's experience from, hire to offboard. So from the second that you say yes to Enable to when you walk into the doors of our office or you log into our virtual office for the first time, to your pay, to your benefits, to your recognition, your reward, all of that is managed within the People and Places team. And we've called ourselves People and Places, but the traditional phrasing could be something like HR and Facilities. But the reason I'm also the Places or the Facilities lead is because we feel really strongly here that the way and how you show up every day to work is a giant part of your employee experience. It's a big part of onboarding too. And it's not just your office, right? It's your technology. It's the way that you're communicated to around that technology. It's how are you enabled to do your job? And People and Places go hand in hand in that enablement to make sure that we are doing everything possible so that the business gets the most value from these people and that these people feel valued from the business.
So cool. I've had a bunch of jobs, no real job for over 3 decades since starting this company. But before that, I had others. I was just thinking back. I was never part of an onboarding process where it was more than just me. What's different if you're onboarding, your typical 1 or 2 people on a Monday morning versus 15 or 25? Like when Enable looks at those Mondays when there are 25 people coming in, what are you like? We need to make sure to do these things.
It's a really great question, and it's tough because Enable, just for context for all of your listeners here, we are a global org. We have over 700 people now, and we have bi-weekly cohorts of onboarding classes. So instead of everyone joining whenever their manager and everyone else wants them to, we do have a pretty tight control on which onboarding days are considered onboarding days. But it's for a good reason, because if we see that in any given month, we'll have 30 people join, 10 are engineers, 15 are salespeople, 5 might be split between product and customer success. Those are very different onboarding paths.
Right.
So the way that we've tried to make everyone feel special while being able to control for the really detailed question the engineer is going to have versus the sales employee who just wants to know how they're going to get paid, right? That's what we have to make sure we're controlling for that. And so we have bi-weekly onboarding cohorts. Just from a pure logistics brass tacks perspective, the way that we organize it is every Monday for the first 90 minutes of everyone's day in that time zone, they sit with the people team and the Places team as well, but we're one big family. And so they learn when they're going to get paid. They learn the mission and vision and the values of the business. They learn how to enroll in benefits. They learn the category that we're trying to overhaul. They learn the philosophies that we hopefully spark their interest with during their interview process, but they also learn the general quick stuff wants to know about on their first day. At the very end of that 90-minute session, when we make sure that they're in their email, we make sure
that's all in 90 minutes.
all in 90 minutes. We are concise.
Okay.
Very efficient.
Yeah, no kidding.
A lot. But at the end of that session, we give them playbooks to walk away with. They know where to go to when they have follow-up questions, because no one's going to remember a darn thing that we've said in those 90 minutes. So we tell them what we're going to tell them. We tell them, and then we show them where we can tell them what we told them, right? But at the end of that 90 minutes, we take them through something we call Enable You. It's a play on the word university. It's spelled Enable, Y-O-U. And it's basically individualized department tracks of onboarding for maybe not their specific role. Not to get too detailed, but a DevOps engineer will have a different onboarding than a UX engineer. It's just different. But what we can do is control for that general population. And we'll say, here's the onboarding track for engineering. Here's the onboarding track for sales. You'll go through sales bootcamp. For engineering, you'll have a 30, 60, 90. But what also helps kind of connect all the dots is that within everyone's first month, they sit with a session from an executive that helps them connect the dots of why sales goes through bootcamp and why engineers have a 30, 60, 90. And so we spend those first 90 minutes with them. We don't even let them talk to their manager. They come and they go through, like they have to pass go, right?
Yeah.
And then before they can get out of that pass go box, they see what their next month looks like across all of the departments. So it really helps them kind of get off on the right foot to where they know, okay, I've got all the answers that I have questions to today. And if I can't remember what that HR business partner said today, I know where I can go find them. And I know that in the next month, this business is going to take care of me and teach me what I need to know, because right now I've got nothing but questions.
Right.
And when a new hire comes in, whether they're one of 20 or one of one, they end their first day with more questions than they came in with. And so giving them that reassurance that, okay, there's a lot of other people in this boat with me, but Enable knows. They know that I have questions. They know that over the next month, I'm going to be learning a ton, and they have the right framework in place so that I have the space to learn all of that.
That's awesome. Has it always been like that? Like you made a point around like, hey, they're ring fence a bit, right? They don't even talk to their manager. They're, and again, it's with their cohort. So presumably they're also making connections where it's like, hey, this is my class, I'm all together. Was it always like that? Or is this sort of something new that's been rolled out? And because, any tweaks around that? Because it's, you don't hear that as often as I think we all should, where it's like, hang on, don't start your real job yet. Just immerse yourself in first.
Totally. And don't get me wrong, we hired a payroll manager. We are really making big evolutions in the people team this year. And we brought in our first dedicated payroll lead, and we threw her right in on day 2. Right. Day 2, she was committing payroll with us. We were going
Sorry.
But that's because you wanted to get paid. The software, that can wait.
So true. Yeah. Shorter lead time for that.
Keep your priorities straight.
And I wish I could say that this is the way that we've been doing it forever, but we're on iteration 10 of Enable You, right? And every couple of months, we get a ton of great feedback from the business leaders and from our new hires themselves, and we iterate and we make changes. I would say this general structure that we're working with right now is about a year old. Prior to this schedule, we had weekly onboarding classes that were smaller. It was a bigger lift on the people team, and it was a bigger lift on managers when, for example, if we bring in a new sales lead and they have to staff a team of 20, that's weekly boot camps, it's weekly teachings. Right. Whereas we've learned now through this biweekly cycle that it's an easier lift for managers because they don't have to do the same things so often. And it's an easier lift for the people team for the same reason. But what it's also organically given us, to your point, Jeanette, are these really great cohorts of people across all levels, across all departments. We brought in a really, really killer VP of talent about 3 months ago, and she had a cohort with her onboarding class of about 22, I want to say. Yeah, about 20. And they ranged from BDRs to entry-level engineer to principal product manager, all over the board. Right. And they meet all the time for lunch when they're in the office. They chat with each other. One of them made a little group on Teams. And she now has this network that her manager could never have given her himself.
Right. It's like a built-in network right there, cross-functional. Because I feel like so many issues at a lot of companies that I talk with, but everything's siloed, right? And so it's like just getting. So that's such a great way. All I'm thinking is now it's like I feel like you need T-shirts, right? Where it's like cohort number or whatever the date.
Cohort 22. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome.
So I had a question about. Like Alex, you were talking about, we should say you've always been doing this forever, but you're probably on iteration 10 or something like that. Have you been able to look at at outcomes, at data to say that, since we started this, iteration 1, our retention or whatever metric of success you're looking at went from X to Y, and like, how do you, I got to think making the business case, because this is a significant investment. Making the business case would be a lot easier if you can say these people stayed with us 12% longer, or whatever that number is.
Absolutely. So I was very blessed and able to inherit some really great engagement practices already. For context, I joined almost 3 years ago. We had about 150 people. And in those 3 years, we've gone from 150 to 700.
That's a big jump.
Quick. But something that our founders really ingrained in their business early on was that we want your feedback. We care about your feedback, but also we action your feedback. And so something that we do just by pure habit at this point is we have a 2-week onboarding review, a 2-week onboarding survey that we send to everyone that's gone through Enable You. They're still going through it, but we then also pulse everybody every month across the entire business. And that's just a quick ENPS really. And then every 6 months, we ask a longer survey, 16 questions, and it's the same questions every 6 months. And so we've gotten into a really good rhythm where I can really understand the heartbeat of the business and understand where we're slowing down, where we need to speed up, what's not working. And in just purely speaking about onboarding, our goal is to have a 95% satisfaction score across onboarding at all times. And we've maintained that. We've had dips. And then when we see dips, we course correct and we iterate. It's one of the reasons we got to this bi-weekly schedule was because we saw a dip. But what we also can correlate that with is that honeymoon phase of, okay, after 2 weeks, people are really happy. We then look, okay, what's the trailing 3-month ENPS score? Can we narrow that down to our most recent people? Is that still staying really healthy? And if it's not, why? And then 4 months down the road of someone's new hire journey, for example, they're now taking that longer 15-question survey from us. We called it You Talk, We Listen. And we get a ton of information out of that survey. And so if I take just today as a point in time, and I look back over the last 6 months, what I expect to see is that new hire going along their journey, still really engaged. They're loving it. They're feeling good. They might dip after month 4 once you kind of breach that crest of ignorance when you know enough, but you don't know enough to be dangerous and you're still trying to kind of figure it out, right? That 4th month for us is really, really critical. And if we don't see people dip back out of that in months 5 and 6, then we have a post-onboarding problem. And so over the last 3 years, we've been able to isolate this data year by year. We have seen those numbers steady. And at this point, because Enable is in hypergrowth, I think all I can really expect from the business is steady, happy engagement. If things ever start to dip, because we have all these data points, the 3 separate surveys that we send out, we've got a tight pulse on it and we can really act quickly. Where I will get into trouble is if we don't act quickly and those numbers continue to dip. Right. So for me to prove to the business, hey, look, this onboarding program is worth it. It's working. For us, we're now in the motion of maintaining this happy, engaged, high ENPS culture. But if I'm starting this from scratch, like some of your listeners might be, the very first thing I would do is start that engagement survey schedule. Make sure you have the data to be able to monitor, because if you're rolling all these programs out, if you're building an L&D program, if you're building an onboarding, any program that we're talking about from a people or places perspective, if you don't have the units of measurement to make sure you can look back in 6 months' time and say, this is what I wanted, or this isn't what I wanted, you won't be able to make an informed decision to pitch to your business leaders in any direction. Really.
Absolutely. I love that you have the data, because you can make, it's not a gut feel, right? It's based on hard fact. And granted, you could always cut the numbers different ways, but it's still the numbers, right? And that is huge, because then you could see again, you're like, oh, 4 months, wait, that's our big issue. And pin in on that. And it's always amazing to me, because sometimes it's hard to get to the data, but when you have it, and hearing your story, that is fantastic, because not every organization is doing that, which is
totally.
When you do, it's so powerful. Just hearing, again, you talk through the time, it's huge.
Exactly. And every business's schedule will be different. I think I'm very lucky to be in an environment where our business now expects us to act on their feedback. And so I am able to pulse them once a month and then every 6 months.
Yeah.
You look at a company like Workday, and they send a question out every single Friday. They have a series of 52 questions that everybody answers throughout the year. It's different questions for everyone every Friday, but they've created that culture to where that's expected now.
Yeah.
I've been at businesses prior where all I could really get away with was 2 surveys a year because the business would complain that they're over surveyed. And that's fine too. That works for that business. You just need to meet your customers where they are. All of my customers are Enables employees. We call ourselves Enablees. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah. Our British counterparts wanted us all to be called enablers, and all of the Americans at the executive were like, oh, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's a different meaning there.
Yes, there's a different meaning. The difference between, we all speak English, but British English versus American English.
Very different, very different. So employee, enablee. And so thankfully we have a culture here where feedback is encouraged, but on the other side of that, they also expect me to act on it.
Yeah.
And so it's
which
great
is
point.
Like fair. Yeah. Which is totally fair. Like, hey, I'm going to give you something, but like,
totally
has to be a give and take. So
mm-hmm.
This is fantastic. Well, I think we're just about out of time. I'm looking at the clock. This has been so great. Thank you. I know it goes by really fast. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your insights and what you're doing. And we appreciate it so much.
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
This was great, Alex. You did a great job of representing kind of Enable and the culture. I mean, if I had somebody who was looking for a role in that, I would feel so confident saying, this is a company to look at. They're thoughtful, they're planful, they really know what they're doing. Do they do everything right? Of course not.
No.
Right?
No,
but they're like listening, learning, like to talk to us, we're listening. Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you so much. This is great.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.